So more and more questions again are piling up about something I mention very often, and this is hernia. And of course there are more people now discovering my teachings, and they're not familiar with all the videos that I have made. And frankly, I lost track of some of my videos. Many of them have been deleted from YouTube, and I didn't have them backed up. So here, this is a video about hernia. Now, we have hernias in various parts of the body, and we give them different names. Just recently, I made an article, and I believe also a video, about aneurysm, which is also type of a hernia, where a hernia occurs in a blood vessel. But this time we are going to talk more about the typical abdominal hernia. Now, why does hernia happen? What is hernia? The stomach cavity is held together with a set of muscles. And these muscles go in various directions, creating a mesh. And sometimes opening in this mesh start happening, which can be actually felt. You can go through your muscles and feel them, and you will find sometimes spaces that, okay, here is kind of separation. Now, we seem to call hernia only when intestine goes through this muscle wall and protrudes outside. Well, hernia actually is the weakened spot. Now, a hernia can protrude where intestine goes through and becomes visible as a pouch, but also it may go through. Very often, doctors usually on babies, they check their stomach and see if there is a problem. Very often babies do have weak spots, herniated spots, but organ didn't protrude yet, but it's a hernia, it's a weak spot. Now, with children, we usually say, we don't have to operate. Now, why operate? Because, again, remember, in medical school, basically in any school, we are not being told science, we are being told science, which is basically under disguise of science being told lies that will serve the purpose why the lie is being told. Now we know medical schools are not bringing up healers, they are bringing up actually drug pushers, drug salesmen, and we call it legal drug because the government gets kickback from this, and illegal drug is government doesn't get kickback of it. Okay, so that's the only difference. All of the drugs are toxic, and actually some of the so-called drugs like marijuana is way more medicinal than many of the other drugs. Let's say, just blankly, the cholesterol-lowering drug, statins. Even heroin is healthier than statin if it's done in very small doses. Okay, at least make you feel good. Statin doesn't do any of it, it just compromises your health by cutting down of the material that your body uses to produce certain hormones or repair problems, cellular problems. So, talking about drugs, that's another story altogether. But when we are talking about hernia in children, okay, it is going to most likely close down. It will be reinforced and it ceases to exist. But when we are older and we develop hernia, then doctor will never tell you, well, just a little bit more time, it's going to get better, because he knows it's going to get worse. And the only solution is surgery, according to the medical science. Now, if we keep the science away and we look at it scientifically, when does hernia occur? People that have hernia also have thick blood. They have polycythemia, another baloney disease. Okay, so how does that thick blood reflect on hernia? Well, what is hernia? Obviously, the spacing that happened between muscles, well, muscles probably were not torn. They were hurt. But if they are not hurting, so why the spacing? Well, what happens with a ball when you deflate it? It shrinks. Now, let's say you have a balls or inflated squares, and you create a little house from these deflated squares. If you start, of those inflated squares, if you start deflating them, the whole house starts shrinking, gets smaller, tinier, and not only that, it becomes weaker. You push it, and you easily go with a hand in between the blocks because they are deflated. So now there's spacing in between. It's, well, exactly same thing happens with our cells. When a cell is properly hydrated, it's usually pressurized. It's like this ball or cube. It's sitting there, pushing on another one next to it. Muscle cells that are formed from well-hydrated cells, they are firm, they have tension, they are strong. You will never see muscle ripping or tendon ripping in an athlete if the athlete was well hydrated. Never. In the past, ripping a tendon by starting a sprinting, this was unheard of. Today, it's a common occurrence. Football players very often rip tendon when they have to start sprinting after the ball. Why? Because they're dehydrated. Now, how does exactly this dehydration on a cellular level works, and what blood has to do with it? Well, again, I explained that when blood does not have enough plasma, it means it's lacking water, it becomes dehydrated and becomes thick. Or, doctor says, polycythemic. There are more cells in a cubic space of blood because there is less plasma. Okay? Very simple, very right in our face. But not if you go to science, because science tells you, no. There is too many cells. Stupidity. Okay, so more dehydrated is the blood, the more toxic it will become because it basically cannot cleanse. And not only that blood becomes toxic, but tissue becomes toxic because blood is maintained reasonably clean. So toxins are being pushed to the periphery, into subcutaneous tissue, connective tissue of the muscles as well. But then, the toxic blood, as toxicity is still increasing, the cells do not want to hydrate with it. And not only do they don't want to hydrate to engage their osmotic pumps, but they actually, the more toxic is the blood, the less porous becomes cellular membrane, because cells start tightening the membranes. They don't want this garbage to enter. So even hydration is being impeded and detox prevented. So cells become more toxic. Majority of these toxins are acids. So cells become more acidic. So not only did they now lost water, so they deflated, they are smaller, spacing becomes larger, tension is being lost, but also they're becoming more acidic, prone to inflammation, because the way how body works combats acidity, especially when when water has to be supplied to the cell because cell has to do something with it, then inflammation occurs locally in the area that is more affected, that is in more necessity of hydration. But inflammation is not playing any role, big role in this hernia occurrence, but just cells of muscles became deflated, became dehydrated. They lost on a volume, the spacing increased, tension is lost. Electric voltage is lost because electroconductivity is weakened, and capacity of storing electrical voltage is reduced because cell increased acidity. This drops muscular tension. There is no electricity to keep muscles tight. So weakness in tension. And first signs of this are loose joints, because they are being held together with muscular tension. Less tension is in muscle, the more freedom joint has, and becomes grinding, become noisy. No lubrication. Okay, I explain this when I talk about joints, when I talk about osteopenia, or well, actually more about rheumatism and arthritis. But all this is connected, related. People that have hernia, they also have noisy joints. Okay, they very easily dislocate. They easily rupture muscle or tendon. And basically when muscle cells dehydrate and all this spacing happens, muscles also shrink because they are dehydrating, and spacing starts opening between muscles. And this is hernia. So you can actually go and find the spacing in a muscle wall of your abdominal area, and you will find soft spaces where you can kind of push your fingers deeper. Well, these are herniated places through which, under pressure, the intestine can be squeezed there and pop through it out, and then enter back again. So they go in and out. Now, these places will become also painful, because if you have intestines protruding through this and then you tighten muscle, it squeezes intestine. Intestines have sensory nerves, so that's gonna hurt. So it is not a problem to push the intestine back without surgery. Okay, you lay on the back, so there is a pressure relief, and then ta, and you can pop up, you can push it in. But as soon as you stand up, phew, it's going to fall off again. So the only solution of scientific doctor is to cut you open, and wherever there is a spacing, stitch the muscle together. This works with children, because children born of toxic mothers, they may have problem of dehydrated muscles. But when they start drinking mother's milk that may be cleaner than their blood, and they start eating less toxic food, there is a good chance that cells will hydrate a little bit and close the spacing, regain muscle tension, and hernia goes away. When we are older, we are on a downslope. We are getting more and more toxic. Our health is getting worse and worse, so of course there is no any expectation that the hernia is going to close. So the solution is surgery. But now doctors know that when body is very toxic, well, they don't call it toxic, but chronically ill, if they stitch it, it opens in another place. So the curing is not going to bring lasting result. So what they do immediately, they put artificial mesh inside, and they stitch the mesh to the muscles. Well, this works better, although now you have a foreign body inside of you. But deterioration of the muscle continues. And also every surgical attempt is doing creating additional problems of energetic flow, breaking energetic meridians, causing scar tissue to occur, and antibiotics are being used. So it just contributes to faster demise of the body. Now, again, it's not a solution, because eventually even the mesh is going to break loose because the muscles are brittle. So it's just going to unhinge and will not serve at all. And I've seen these cases. So the next only thing that doctors know to do is put girdle, to put outside very tight elastic shield, so it keeps you actually tight and prevents intestines to seep out and pain caused by this thing. But none of it is healing or curing. We can actually heal hernia. Unfortunately, to do this, you have to do everything contrary to what science is telling you. Because science was carefully crafted to slowly destroy our health. Slow enough so we cannot blame it on the medication we are being given. This is why these things occur very young in the age. They start compromising the health, and it gets worse and worse as our toxicity increases. Even from the medication we have received. So, how can we go about hernia? How can we prevent them, number one, but also then heal the body from them once when they develop? Well, you cannot do and only take care of this problem, because now you are working on a cellular level. You have to rehydrate the cells. And there is no magic pill that says, okay, you drink this and only muscles will rehydrate. Healing is controlled process, and it's controlled by your body, by your genes. And if you want any kind of a healing to occur, you first have to hydrate the blood. The problem is, as soon as you start hydrating the blood, and now what do you hydrate blood? With water? No. Because if you drink water, if you put water in, you are diluting the remaining ionic values. Your electroconductivity worsens, and your body is a robot that has a sensors, switches, and programs it runs on. And the program is calibrated to certain ionic values. If they drop, there is more water, then mechanism is engaged to eliminate surplus of the water to properly calibrate for best possible electroconductivity. Electricity in a body is what we call the energy. People with hernia are always low on energy as well, because they are dehydrated on cellular level, acidic, cannot hold energy, cannot hold electrical voltage. So, drinking water will not serve. We have to drink plasma, ionized water, water with minerals. The best thing is to take hold of seawater. Now, salinity of the body is about 9 grams of salt per liter. Seawater is about 35 grams, depending where the sea. Tropical seas are. Shallow tropical seas like Caribbean and stuff have more salt. But it circulates, so it's trying to spread the salinity all equally. This is why if you cannot grab hold of seawater, you have to take freshly harvested sea salt that comes from evaporated sea, not from a mine. Because that salt has way more minerals and has a lot of magnesium, which is necessary. And the percentage of salt should be at least then 9 grams of salt per liter. Again, that depends how toxic you are, because as soon as you start loading on plasma, your body is going to try to eliminate the worst poisons that are bothering it. And you will have detox symptoms. Since body is still trying to save the plasma, it will try to eliminate it in a way that it loses less plasma from the body, so it will activate your mucosal tissue. And you will be producing more mucus, and the toxins from the blood will go through the mucus into your mouth, into your stomach, into your intestines, giving you nausea and diarrhea. And you have to eliminate them. So when you start hydrating, you are in a big chance that you are going to be tricked into detox. And then science tells us, no, diarrhea is bad, it's going to dehydrate, you got to stop diarrhea. When you stop diarrhea, you stop cleansing. You cannot stop diarrhea. You have to promote it and actually give the body what it needs, not water. Because if you give it water, then body will take it and throw it out without even cleansing. And you will be dehydrating the blood actually. You have to give it plasma, water with salt. But then, wow, salt is going to create high blood pressure, it's going to create kidney failure. This is science. This is not science. Science is created by Qual. What do we know about them? They invert things. What is good, they say it's bad. What is bad, they say it's good. So whenever you are taking advice from scientifically educated doctor, everything he will tell you is going to be contrary to the truth. I know, I went through the brainwashing process. And I've learned the truth separately. And this is why people heal when they follow the very simple self-healer's protocol. Because truth is simple. only is contrary to science, so people don't buy it. They say it's not possible that you can heal all these chronic, incurable diseases, autoimmune diseases, by drinking plasma and eating meat, raw meat. Are you crazy? This is all contrary to science. Of course it's contrary to science, because science is not science. It's manipulated information to mislead us. This is what science is. So, if you start hydrating on cellular level, your muscle cells are going to first cleanse, but as they are cleansing, they start hydrating. The more hydrated they are, the less toxic they become. And as they hydrate, they inflate. And they start closing hernias. Pop, 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 pop. They just close. You don't need any surgery. Of course, if you have protruding, if there are such a big holes now protruding intestines, well, during this process, you will have to kind of keep them in, okay, consciously. So this stuff can close, and they will start hurting, so you will have to start closing, because as they get smaller, they make more pressure on the intestine that is seeping through. So you'll have to start pushing them in. And it's going to close. Not only that you will close then hernia in your stomach, inguinal hernia, stomach hernia, but varicose veins, same principle. The flaps, they are preventing blood going down when a heart is in systole. They start caving in. The flaps don't work properly. So blood is dropping and increasing pressure, making the vein larger, full of blood, varicose vein. When you start hydrating, you are hydrating every cell in your body. So all of a sudden, you start getting rid of varicose veins. If your heart has a murmur because your tricuspidal valve is not closing properly, because it's shrunk, it's dehydrated, so it's leaking, well, it will hydrate and it will start closing well, and your heart murmur goes away. No need for heart surgery. Seen it. This is not theory. I've seen it in practice. So, heart hernia between atria that didn't close when baby was born and created problems during the life. I had a 37-year-old lady with this problem. All her life she was not able to run. She only can walk, do things very slowly, because the opening between atria never closed. She started doing self-healers protocol, and within few months she started walking better, and within 5 months she started actually jogging, because the space in between atria starts closing down. If only we would be told truth, nobody would ever be sick. But we are all following science, Fauci science, and all the other sciences of prominent Nobel Prize winners. And this is why we have such a crappy knowledge. All misguided. Nothing can be simpler than healing. But we have to be ready to get rid of science, to stop listening to what our professors and our doctors are telling us, because they are all indoctrinated. Schooling is indoctrination. since the truth is so different, so much out there from the science we are being told, people have very hard time accepting it. This is why I'm writing articles and making videos explaining as best as I can in the simplest language as possible so everybody can understand it. It's very simple. So I hope that it starts resonating with you and you look into it. Start hydrating. Start eating correctly. Get away from vegetables. Get away from spices. Get away from supplements. Learn the truth. Be prepared. If you do the self-healers protocol, this is guide of proper hydration and proper diet, so on genetic level your body can repair itself and it starts repairing the whole body. Your genes are your doctors. They just have to be put in proper environment so they activate correctly. You do this, follow the self-healers protocol because this is your key. You do this, you heal. But you will have symptoms of detox and symptoms of toxic blood because first your body will start hydrating and getting out the toxins. But we call these symptoms disease. So you will have diarrhea, you will have fever, you will have pain. Well, I explained all these things. I have hundreds of videos out, I have thousands of articles out, my book. Everything is there for you to learn the truth. I hope it resonates with you and you do this. Don't count on the doctors to save you because doctors are the least ones to accept the truth because they're running on these programs. They reject truth because to them truth is what they have been told through their indoctrination process. They are incapable. I tried. Incapable to see the truth, or incapable. Help yourself by yourself. You don't need anybody. All you need is the correct information. And then do your stuff. And if you have a problem, if you are scared, if you are medicated, you have to get rid of medication. They are all poisoning you, preventing your body from healing. Every medication has to be taken out. So, if you have problem with this, contact me, contact someone that have done the protocol, so understands it, and taken control of your health and healing process. Thank you for listening. Till next time. Love you all. God be with you.